Hey everyone, welcome to the History Reader. My name is Jason and welcome to this video. For those who are new here, I read pretty much all history, so I was pretty excited when I came across Triumphal Reads and a couple of books announcing the History Challenge, which is taking place at the end of August this year, the last 2 weeks of August. And the idea of the challenge is that you read one non-fiction history book through those last 2 weeks of August. There's also some prompts. There's a bingo card full of prompts. There's a tag, which I'm doing today. It's a really cool challenge. It's organized by 4 booktubers, a couple of books, and Triumphal Reads are 2 of them. I can't remember the other 2 off the top of my head, but I will put them in the description. So I'm doing the tag today. This is just some questions about history and reading history. I will do things like my reading plan, my TBR, things like that in another video, and some recommendations in another video. But if you're finding this channel for the first time, hi. Hope you enjoy my videos, and I hope you find some cool recommendations here. And I'm very much looking forward to watching everybody else's videos to do with this tag. So we'll start with the questions. And the first one is, what first got you into history? And really, I've been interested in history for pretty much my whole life. Not like I am now, where I basically spend a large chunk of my waking hours reading or watching or listening to stuff about history. But I remember being a kid with this book about explorers, people like Ferdinand Magellan and James Cook and Roald Amundsen, I imagine, would probably have been in that book. And it had like maps and stuff in it of all these journeys that these people went on. I loved that book. Now, I studied history in school, obviously, and enjoyed that. And then I went on a bit of a diversion through my undergrad, and now I'm studying for a master's in history. So yeah, that is my story. And I got really seriously into reading history probably in the last 3 years or so. So yeah, that's my story. What is your favorite history book / author? I have to say Ron Chernow is my favorite history author. I wouldn't be able to choose my favorite book. So Ron Chernow, for those who aren't aware, wrote the Alexander Hamilton biography, which inspired Lin-Manuel Miranda to write the Hamilton musical. So this is obviously a very, very well-selling book. I think he won the Pulitzer Prize for this. I'm not 100% sure. He has won the Pulitzer Prize for one of his books. I don't know if it was that one. It is excellent. He's also written a bunch of other books. Probably the book that got me into reading history very seriously is this one, The House of Morgan. It's about the Morgan banking empire. So the guy who started the bank that eventually became JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley. So that I loved reading. Then he also wrote The Warburgs, which is about another banking family. He wrote one on General Grant, and I believe he's written one on Washington as well. So he's written a lot of books. He is probably the best biographer that is out there at the moment, or one of the best biographers that's out there at the moment. So yeah, that's that. And he is probably my favorite history writer, although I have lots of favorites, but I had to pick one, so I'm picking that. What is your favorite, what is your most anticipated history book you've not read yet? That has to be Dreadnought by Robert K. Massey. I read Robert K. Massey's Castles of Steel a couple of months ago now, and I just loved it. And since then, I've been obsessed with that period of Royal Navy history. I've actually got, it's out of shot, but I'm building a model of the Dreadnought. So I ordered the book. It's in the mail at the moment. And so I'm very much excited for that to arrive, to read it. I also loved how Massey wrote. So there's that. What is your favorite time period? what book do you want to read / have read about it? My favorite time period, like, it's hard to say. It's kind of basic to say World War II, but I have to say that is probably my favorite time period. It's what I sort of gravitate towards reading about. It's kind of basic, but yeah. What's a book that I have read about the time period? I think my favorite one or the one that I most easily recommend to people is this. It's the Second World War by Anthony Beevor. It's a bit of a chunker. It runs to just about 1,000 pages and covers the Second World War, basically. It covers it in kind of chronological order to give you an idea of basically how the battle went, how the fighting went over the period of the war, and it gives you a really good understanding of that. In terms of, I'm just going to put this down here. In terms of books that I want to read, there is a series of books about the war in the East, like particularly I think the war at sea. I forget what it's specifically called. I'm going to have a look quickly. Now, I found them. So they're by Ian W. Toll. There's 3 of them. There is Pacific Crucible, Conquering Tide, and Twilight of the Gods, which is about the war in the East, like island hopping campaign. I really want to pick those up and read them. I just need to get around to doing that, and it will be a significant commitment. I'm pretty sure they're all like 700, 800 page books, and there's 3 of them, so there'll be a significant commitment of time to get through, but I'm probably going to do that towards the end of this year. What time period would you like to learn more about / and what do you want to read / have read about it? I really want to learn about the Vikings. They have fascinated me for ages, and I just haven't come across them. I'm from Australia, for those who can't hear by the accent. We don't learn about them here in school. I think, or I imagine, you probably learn about them more if you live in, I imagine, Northern Europe. You learn about them. If you live in England, I'd imagine you probably do. Although 6 Wives of Henry VIII, I've heard, is like the thing to learn in school history. But I really want to read about that. There is that book called Sagaland, I believe, which I'm not sure if it's the best book to start with, but that seems pretty cool. I might pick that up. But yeah, there's a bunch of books on Vikings, I imagine, so I want to read that. What is or who is your favorite person from history? What book do you want to read / have read about it? I have to say Winston Churchill is my favorite. I've read this one here. It's Churchill Walking with Destiny by Andrew Roberts. This came out in, I believe, 2019, and it's one of the more sort of up-to-date books about Churchill. 2018 it came out. So it's one of the most up-to-date biographies of him. It was officially, the Queen gave permission for Andrew Roberts to access her father's war diaries in the Royal Archive. So it has quite a bit of interesting information from there. He also accessed Ivan Maysky's diaries, who was the Soviet ambassador to Britain at the time. So that book was really great. I want to read, there's a series of books, or a 6 or 7 volume biography of him that was written by, or started by, his son Randolph Churchill and finished by Martin Gilbert, which when Randolph Churchill sadly died. I found a copy of volume 1. It's in this kind of like moth-eaten, very faded binding, but yeah, this is the first volume of it, covering 1874 to 1900, and I believe this must have been printed in the 60s. So I do want to get around to those at some point, but again, significant time commitment to do that. And then Martin Gilbert also has a single volume biography that he subsequently wrote on Churchill. So I'd be interested to read that as well. Question number 7. What history topic would you like to see more fiction/non-fiction about? I would love to see more fiction about the Gilded Age, which is a period basically from the end of the Civil War in America up until, at a stretch, the Great Depression, where capitalism ran rampant, and you had people like John D. Rockefeller and Morgan, J.P. Morgan, people like Edison, and all these businessmen, basically, who Andrew Carnegie is another big name. These people who became the richest men in the world, and just insane amounts of money, it's an insane time. We are getting a Julian Fellows TV series about it, the guy who created or produced Downton Abbey, and I think he wrote Downton Abbey as well. So that will be really exciting. I think that's coming out this year or maybe next year. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'd love to see more fiction about that. Number 8 is, what non-book resources do you enjoy when learning about history? I have to say podcasts is probably the most basic answer here. I really love podcasts. I'm planning on doing a video on this channel about all the history podcasts I like, so I won't mention any names here, but it's kind of basic, but that's what I really do like. Documentaries are great, but I find they can often skim the surface, so I'm a little bit picky with documentaries. Number 9, what's worth looking at is some TV shows that aren't necessarily documentaries. Band of Brothers is probably the shining example here, where it's based on true life, and then there's obviously some fictionalized bits in there, but that's really cool because it gives you when it's made in that way, that's not a documentary, but it's trying to give you a real feel for what happened. That's really cool. And then I suppose on that sense, like maybe historical fiction like Vikings is pretty cool. Number 9, what's a fun history fact / quote that you can share with us? This is kind of embarrassing because I didn't read this beforehand. So what's a fun history fact? I don't really know. There is a cool, I wish I'd be able to go through it, but there's a really funny story about when Churchill was voted out of government at the end of the Second World War, and he goes over to America to meet with Truman, and he travels with Truman on a train, and he, or maybe it was before the war. Actually, I think it might have been before the war. Anyway, he travels with Truman, and he's kind of like bad-mouthing the Prime Minister at the time to Truman. It's kind of funny that it would happen, and Churchill's just one of those people who would do that. But I don't have anything great to share with you, unfortunately. And then question number 10 is, shout out a booktuber you enjoy who also reads history books. And for this I have to say David Murphy. He reads a lot of World War II / Nazi Germany / history of economics and history of thought books, and he's incredibly smart and intelligent and well spoken, and definitely go and check out his videos. He's been on a bit of a hiatus, but maybe we can drag him into the history challenge. I know he's very busy at the moment, but yeah, maybe we can get him to just come and read a book and dissect it for us. So that's everything from me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will be coming with more of these soon, so see you then.